If you're not using Ironclad for contracts, you could be leaving millions on the table without knowing it. Every contract holds renewal dates, pricing terms, and obligations you can't afford to miss. But good luck finding them when it matters. Ironclad's AI instantly surfaces what matters so you can act before opportunities slip away. That's why they're trusted by OpenAI, L'Oreal, and Salesforce. Find the savings hiding in your contracts at ironcladapp.com/podcast. That's ironcladapp.com/podcast.
You don't stop training because you reached one checkpoint. The trail only gets harder from here. Welcome to Northbound. I'm your host, Chris. I hated school when I was younger, but leadership taught me something different. It taught me that this is a long trail, and the higher you climb, the fewer markers there are, and the more intentional your preparation must be. Leadership is not just a destination. In fact, it's not really a destination at all. It's a journey. It's a long trail. And continuing your education is how you're going to make sure you don't get lost, irrelevant, outdated, left behind. It shows initiative. It shows, like we've talked about before, that you're willing to step into uncomfortable. So let's talk about that. Just like adventure, just like backpacking, you're not going to just stop learning and preparing and changing your techniques because you reached one checkpoint. The trail's constantly changing, whether that's terrain, weather, elevation. Your gear might break down. You're going to learn. You're always learning. And the higher you go, the more that preparation and learning is going to matter. So continuing your education matters, even if some people say it doesn't. And they may even tell you that it doesn't matter for senior leadership, but most senior leaders are quietly looking for it. Let's get into some main points on this. The main point number one is that terrain changes as you climb. Your early career skills probably will not scale into senior leadership because some of your challenges are going to evolve, and you're going to go maybe from some technical challenges to strategic ones, from execution to decision making, from individual performance focus to an organizational impact focus. And education is going to help you anticipate that terrain and not just be in reaction to it. When you're in the backcountry and you're backpacking and going higher and going towards the summit, the trail markers are going to get farther apart. One of those reasons is that there aren't a lot of trees up there. There's not a lot of places to put trail markers. So they become less frequent. On top of that, at higher elevation, you have a lot of snow. And so sometimes there is no trail. In fact, a lot of time going through the Sierra, when you're going over the summit, there are many months out of the year where there is no trail. And so you have to study that. You have to know where you're going. You got to have your GPS dialed in, or you got to have a good map, or maybe like in the Rocky Mountain National Park, you've got rock cairns that help you navigate as you get to the summit. But bottom line is you have prepared, you are learning, and you're ready for that higher elevation. Formal education is the same way, and it exposes systems thinking, risk management, organizational psychology, some of these things that you're not going to learn accidentally. And you certainly don't want to learn it from the wrong people. So the higher the elevation, the more intentional your preparation needs to be. Main point number two is that upper leadership is watching you, even when they say they aren't, even when they say they don't, or when they don't say it. And some leaders will say that degrees don't matter. That is not true. Degrees do matter. Furthering your education matters. But what they most often mean by that is that maybe a degree alone isn't enough. You may need specific training to advance in your specific industry, okay? But most senior leaders do notice who is investing in themselves and who's stretching beyond just the minimum requirements. Leaders trust people like this. They trust people who are stretching beyond, who are checking their gear, training before their trip, and don't just assume that what they already knew is going to work in the future. Many years ago, I was in a meeting while in the Air Force, and there were some people in the Air Force that were not happy about furthering their education, about getting another degree. But for promotion, that was a requirement at the time. And so we were in a meeting with a general, And the question came up is, why do we have to do this? Why do we have to further our education? And I'll never forget his response. It was weird, and it was not the best response that he could have given, but it did make sense to me. And he said, well, you can either choose to get further or get a degree or further your education or pursue professional military education, or I can stick this number 2 pencil in your eye. Again, like I said, not the greatest response. However, what it meant was we didn't have a choice, or we did, but we were certainly not going to be promoted without it. So if you wanted to further your career, if you wanted to advance in rank while in the military, you were going to need to pursue some amount of education. Now, the thing is like, I was going to do it anyways because it was free. And that's another thing is if there's education within your organization that is free, take it. And if you don't know if there is, ask. Find out if there are classes you can take for free that your organization supports. But let's remember a few things. This is a kind of a reality check, just being honest here. Education is not going to equal automatic promotion, but it does signal that you're thinking long term, that you're disciplined, and that you have a willingness to be uncomfortable, because you're not being evaluated on where you are, but on how seriously you take the climb ahead or how qualified you are for the next job, for the next promotion. You're getting promoted into something that you have potential for. It's not just about where you were. It's about where you're going. Main point number 3 is that education can be pack weight. Choose it wisely. Not all education is created equal, and overpacking slows you down. The goal isn't just to rack up a bunch of credentials. It's about getting capability. What I mean by this is choose education that helps you in your current career or helps you maybe get a different career that you are trying to change to or you're passionate about or whatever the case may be. But make sure that it's valuable. Here's the analogy again. Every item in your pack should justify why it's there and justify its weight. And it's the same with education in your workplace. Whether it's degree programs, certifications, executive education, industry learning, it needs to help you with your career. Some practical questions you can have for yourself before you pick what that is. Will this make me a better decision maker? Will it broaden how I see problems? Will it prepare me for responsibilities that I don't yet have? The right education is going to make the trail easier, not heavier. And main point number 4, those leaders who keep learning and push themselves are going to go farther, and they're going to stay longer, because leaders who stop learning will many times have to rely on outdated instincts. They are resistant to change, and they may lose relevance. Continued education will keep leaders curious, humble, and adaptable. So, in closing, we are going to choose to train for the next miles at Northbound. The train is changing as you climb. We need to be prepared for that. Senior leaders notice preparation, and education is pack weight. Choose it wisely, and learning is going to keep you on the trail longer. We're not pursuing education just to prove we're smart. We're pursuing it to stay capable. Now, everything from this episode and the episodes before, this is all information that is just a little bit that we expound upon much more in the community online. So I'd encourage you to go to the community. You can get the link at www.go-northbound.com. You can always reach out to me directly if you want to talk about any of this. My email is chris@go-northbound.com. I'd love to help you. I'd love to walk with you, and I might be able to just help you decide on furthering your education, what that would look like for you, and give you some different options for that. Okay? All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to Northbound. It's been a pleasure. See ya.